Welcome to the Ranchonomics Podcast, where we empower you to build a better ranch and transform your operations into a thriving business. I'm your host, John Haskell. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Ranch Tribe Podcast. I am here solo today. I want to talk about a few things related to running a business. And the most important thing I want to cover today is what I think of as the 5 pillars of business. Some people put them in 4 pillars. Some people have 7 pillars. But importantly, there are more than one part of a business that we need to attend to if we are going to be successful. I often hear people talk about the fact that they are very successful in the operation of their business, and yet their business is not performing the way they expect it to. Operations is one very important part of a business. So think of those as like the daily tasks, the Whitby type things. If we're good at growing grass, if we're good at grazing cattle, if we're good at keeping cattle healthy, we're good at getting them to gain, we're good at growing crops, those are all part of the operational pillar of the business. But most people only think about that one pillar. They don't think about all 5. I'm going to run through them real quickly, and then we'll talk about each of them separately. Marketing and sales, in my mind, is one very important pillar. Some people break that into 2. We'll talk about them together. Operations, as I already mentioned. Finance, and we can say finance and economics, but most importantly for what we're going to talk about today, finance, then HR or human resources, and then finally admin. All right, so let's jump in. Marketing and sales. This is how your business operations interacts with the outside world. This is where the money comes from. In theory, someone is willing to pay you for your product or service. And that is where you have to get your product or service in front of customers with money who are willing to exchange money for your service. If you do a great job growing crops and all you can do is put them in the bin, you are not marketing. You're not converting that crop into money. Now, lots of people in both the livestock and the crop world, they are very passive about the marketing part. They may think they're marketing, but they might be doing a fairly poor job of it. If all I'm doing is raising a calf crop and then at when I want to wean or when I'm out of grass, loading them up in a trailer, hauling them to the sale barn and selling them, my marketing pillar is weak at best. So let's talk that through a little more. Marketing and sales are separate because marketing is how you sort of talk about your product, how you promote your product, how you develop interest in your product. Sales is actually the final sort of conversion of that product into cash. In some businesses, marketing and sales are more or less indistinguishable. In others, they are very, very important. If you think about a car dealership, they spend a lot of money on ads, that is marketing. They spend a fair amount of time, effort, and energy on the actual final sale. So when you're negotiating the price with the car dealer, that I put into the sales part. You're there because you want the car. That's marketing has gotten you there. Sales is what closes the deal, signs the contract, and agrees to the final price. Okay, so from there, let's go to finance, because this is the part that creates the budgets for your business. This is the part that monitors how money is coming and going from your business. This is the part that should be watching for key metrics or key performance indicators. What are the things in your business that drive you to be successful? Cash is obviously a very important thing. So managing how much cash is in our bank account, how much cash is available to us through a line of credit or loans, and then whether or not the cash that we are spending is developing a positive return and coming back to us, larger, basically. I want to spend $1 to make more than $1. Those are all the areas of finance. That's obviously the place where Ranch Right spends a lot of time working. We spend a lot of time focused there. One of the things I love about finance is that it's connected to all of the other parts of your business. So you have a marketing budget, for example. You may even have marketing KPIs. Finance can be very helpful in terms of how to monitor those activities and whether or not they're having a positive effect on the bottom line. HR, human resources, is another place where our good friend Emily Hobson works, and that is the human part of the business. How are the people that work in the business? How do we find them? How do we attract them? How do we manage them? People management is a very important part of business. If you are in a family business or you're a sole proprietorship, the people part is no less important than it is for a larger company. People often are the most productive parts of the business. And just like finance, they're connected to every part. So they make a business successful or not based on their performance. If I hire somebody to watch the cows and they don't watch the cows and they run out of water, that has a huge effect on the rest of the business. If we don't have happy people in place, that tends to also not work very well. If we're burning people out, that doesn't work very well. So managing the human part of the business is very important. This is a piece I often have seen get neglected by people that are interested in holistic management. And I've seen this since the 90s, really. We often get very excited about the grass. We get very excited about stockmanship and the animal management. We get very excited about the crops. Most of us don't claim to be that interested in people anyway. We live in the middle of nowhere where the wind tends to blow. You can't really hear other people talk, so you're not maybe a good listener. You're not very good at listening to other people talk about their feelings. But we have got to be paying attention so that our people are effective. And again, even if that's a sole proprietorship, that means focusing on yourself and making sure you are the best person you can be to get the job done. Continuing ed falls under HR in my mind. Managing people so that they are growing and changing and becoming a greater contributor to the enterprise and just to the world at large is a big part of that.
At RanchRite, we don't just understand ranch accounting, we live it. Our team includes ranchers, ag finance pros, sell-by marketers, HR advisors, and even CPAs who've worked across regenerative agriculture. Every one of us brings hands-on ranching experience to the table because you deserve a financial partner who actually gets how this life works. Learn more about the team behind the mission at ranchritellc.com.
Before I get back to operations, we're going to talk about admin. Admin sometimes gets lumped in with finance. I think those two things are separate. Admin is more along the lines of the person that gets the bills and opens them, that mails the checks back to vendors, that files the paperwork with the Secretary of State every year to make sure that your business is registered correctly, manages, software subscriptions and those sorts of things. There are a bunch of little niggly tasks that are admin tasks. Most of us think of those as kind of working on the business tasks, and I would say that those are actually working in the business tasks. They're just stuff that has to get done to keep a business's doors open and functioning. Okay, finally, we're going to get to operations. This is the part where most of us spend our time. As with finance, as with HR, as with marketing, these things are greatly intertwined, right? So we want to make sure in our operation that we are producing a product that is marketable, that we can sell. We want to produce a product that the market is expressing demand for. Operational excellence, in my mind, is table stakes to be successful in business. You can't be a bad producer and be good at business for any length of time. We do see cases, and I think of this all the time in the world of things like horse training, where you see a horse trainer that's not that great, but boy, is he a good marketer and he can fill an arena. There are people like that, but those tend to be short-lived, and they tend to not be very common. Most of the time, if somebody has a really good operation and they're really good at marketing, they are going to outperform that person who's only good at marketing. If you continue to disappoint customers, you won't be in business very long. The great thing about free markets and the system that we live in is that if we produce a substandard product, we usually will not get paid for it, and our business will go away, or we will be forced to change. If we produce a superior product, but do a terrible job marketing it, we may also go away, but not because of, disappointed customers. When we think about operations as one of 5 pillars of our business, it helps put things in perspective. We certainly want to do a good job on production, but we have to remember it's not the only thing. Running a business is an optimization process whereby you want to be at least acceptably good in all things. As I mentioned before, if you produce a fantastic product, but you don't do any marketing, people aren't just going to come find you and seek out your product. You have to get it in front of them. If you do a terrible job managing your money, but you produce a great product, that also will not get you where you want to be in your business. If you produce a great product, at the expense of, your labor, Same thing. You're going to be disappointed. We have to optimize between all of these things. We have to keep the different pieces of our business functioning correctly. I reference these 5 pillars pretty regularly when I talk about businesses, and I wanted to make sure that I walked through all of them. Again, the 5 pillars are marketing and sales, operations, finance, HR, and administration. And we have to be good, at least reasonably good at all of those things in order to have a successful business. We see lots of cases where businesses are terribly imbalanced, and those tend not to work. And the cases where we see where a business is optimized, where it performs reasonably well across all 5 pillars, those businesses can be very, very successful and generate a lot of wealth for their owners. Hope this is helpful to you. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we will talk soon.
Thank you for tuning into the Ranchnomics podcast. We hope this episode helped you win today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with a friend.